Hi friends, welcome back to another episode of Around the Next Bend. So this morning I was thinking about going out doing a little bit of ice fishing because it's been nice and cold, so the ice conditions have been just rapidly improving. Yeah, I had a dentist appointment first, so I had to go and rush out and do that. And lo and behold, it is much colder than I thought. And when I got outside to try and get into my truck, my doors are frozen shut. So a little difficult to pack all my stuff up and get out to the lake if I'm frozen shut. So anyway, I decided, well, I need to put an episode out this week, and what am I going to do? So I decided that the best thing for me to do is to maybe give a little bit of a look at some of the equipment that I use, and I am one of those people that like to buy my equipment on a budget. I'm not a brand snob where I have to have the best and most expensive of everything else. So I thought I'd take this opportunity today to go over some of my equipment with you and show you what you can do to make your fishing adventure a little more affordable and easier to get into. So given that it's February and it's ice fishing season, we'll start with what I've got on my ice fishing setup. I've got a couple of different rods here. So this is my first rod. It's a 36 inch, medium weight. I try to use this for a little bigger fish, 6, 7, 8, 10 pounds. Usually things like burbot, lake trout, larger rainbows. It's a good sturdy rod. This one here is an Ugly Stik Ice Runner. Got it at Canadian Tire, and it was a Shakespeare reel and Ugly Stik combo for about $30. So not having to break the bank to get into a decent little rod to start with. One of the things I do recommend is if you do buy a rod and reel combo is change out the line before your first fishing. They usually put the lightest, cheapest line on they can find, and I've actually lost fish and my lures first catch. So first thing I do when I buy a new rod, especially if it's a combo that's pre strung, I pull all the line off and I put a heavier line, and we'll talk about some of that a little bit later. One of the other rods here that we use, again, Canadian Tire. I believe this one was in about the $20 to $30 range. It's a Zebco. This one actually, I believe, belongs to my son, but I'm just using it as a demonstrator. This one is, again, 36 inch, and it's a medium action. So this will be good for pretty much everything you want to catch. It will catch the smaller fish just as well as it'll catch the bigger fish. It'll just handle the bigger fish a little bit better. Again, no need to break the bank. $30, you go out and pick up a little bit of tackle, and you're ready to go. When you are looking at some of the less expensive gear, there's a difference between cheap and affordable. Over the years, I've bought cheap, and cheap is not always good. I prefer to call my brands affordable. One of the key factors when I'm picking out fishing gear is I look at things like the brand name. I look at the quality of, what's the rod made out of? Is it fiberglass? Is it graphite? Is it bamboo? Like there's a multitude of different materials that they can make the rod out of. One of the other more important things is your guide rings. How are they on? Are they tied? Are they taped? Are they glued? Are they resined on? So you can look at little things like that and determine what works best for you. I like the resin wrapped on a fiberglass rod or a carbon fiber rod if I can get it. I also tend to, like I said, look at brand names that I know have been around for a long time. Daiwa, Zebco, Ugly Stik. There's a multitude of them, and they've been around for a long time for a reason. One of the things they do is they mass produce a cheaper less expensive brand, but their quality testing still puts it out to a quality fishing rod. I actually have a rod here that I will talk about a little bit later. I've had that one for, I believe I bought it in 1991, and it is still my go-to rod for my fishing season. So that being said, that's something to consider when you're looking at equipment. Don't always look for the most expensive, because sometimes the most expensive isn't always the best, and you need to buy what's right for you. So let's move into some of the equipment that I use. I use different variations of baits and lures. Not my favorite, but your standard jig head can come in very handy, especially in the ice fishing season. Seems to be one of the more common things to do. You can buy these relatively cheap, multiple sizes. This one's quite large. I just brought the large one out so you can hopefully see it a little better on the camera. You can get a multitude of colors. You can get different sizes. Here we have a little smaller one. Maybe you can see that. I'm going to hand it to my assistant here, and he's going to show you. And these can be rigged up with different types of attractants or lures. So one of the ones we use here, I'm going to pull it out because it will be a little bit easier to see. And oh, sorry, this is just a white gummy maggot, and it's from Powerbait or from Berkley. It does have scent penetrated into it, so it's not only an attractant by movement, but also by scent. You can simply rig those up by, I think I have one here, similar. And I'm just going to have my assistant show you. So here's a better example. If you want to try that, you just put the hook through the nose, and then you bring it out about a third of the way down the body, and there's your jig head ready to go. And you just jig that up and down. So thank you. There is other different types. What we have here is a black shad minnow, and this comes in a pack of, I believe it's 10 or 20. Again, you put those on your jig head, same method, through the tip and about a third of the way down. These are in a sealed container because they have scented oil that is supposed to help attract any of your game fish. Berkley also puts out a lot of power baits, different types. This is a paste, and I do use that. It's not the easiest to use. You just basically form a little ball and you put it into the base of your hook here, and it is supposed to attract fish. I've actually had pretty good luck with it. It works quite well. But again, I actually recommend, if you can, wear some latex gloves or something, because it gets smeared. It gets everywhere. This particular one is horrible. It's got glitter in it. So yeah, you go home all covered in glitter and everything else. So they also make their baits in what they call a marshmallow, and again, you can get different sizes. These ones, ice fishing lures, are usually you're usually using a smaller hook, so I bought the smaller marshmallows. Something else to keep in is different types of lures. And again, I will pass this to my assistant. And this is called a coffin jig or a coffin lure. And what it does is you jig it off the bottom, and it flutters erratically up and down as you're jigging, but it also has a little marble inside that rocks back and forth and creates a clicking noise, which tends to aggravate any fish in the area and bring them over. And I have caught fish quite frequently on those. Again, they come in different colors, different patterns, different sizes. So, and here we have another type of jig, and again, this one is just basically a lead minnow, and it's got a little feather on the back, and when you jig that, it kind of the action's a little erratic. It darts back and forth as it sinks back to the bottom, and it kind of gives an injured bait fish kind of a vibe. So, and this is what we call a diver. Again, just a little lead. This one's got some really gnarly hooks on it, but
there's actually 3 hooks on this one.
Yeah, and it's got fin on it, so it actually kind of swims back and forth as it sinks back to the bottom. And this one's a little beat up, so I've got a few on that as well. The nice thing about lures and doing what I call fishing on a budget is right here, the lures that I've showed you is probably about $35 worth of lures. So when you're getting into your rods and your reel combos and stuff, keeping them down to getting a good rod for a few bucks makes it a little easier to swallow when you've got to go to the next aisle over and buy your lures. Lure prices average from about $6 to anywhere to $30 or $40 depending on what type of lures you're buying. So you can understand why if you have fishermen in your life, they get upset when they lose a good lure. It's not cheap to replace them. So okay, something else that is handy to have in your tackle box, and if you have fished or know people that fish, is a pair of needle nose pliers. These are quick and easy to help remove the hook from the fish's mouth. I always pinch my barbs or try to buy barbless hooks if I can. It makes it a lot easier to get the hook out of the mouth, and it does a lot less damage and stress to the fish if you can simply flip your wrist, pull the hook out, and let the fish go and get them back in the water as quick as you can. You can also get a set of forceps, and these will do much the same thing. These just aren't spring loaded, but they do have a nice little clip, so you can clip them on your jacket or vest and have them handy. Knives, you should have a couple of different types of knives. You should have just any old pocket knife. It can be a dollar store pocket knife, anything. It doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be high quality. I actually recommend the cheaper the better. And basically, if for whatever reason you have to cut your line quickly or whatever, just any old good knife with a good edge on it. But you don't want to have expensive knives sitting on, by your foot. Then you go turn around to grab your coffee, and next thing you know, boop, your knife's gone down the hole. So keep yourself with a good knife, but use what you need. Another type of knife and I've used these for many years, and this is, you've probably all seen these in the sporting goods store, is just your basic filleting knife. And if you're going to keep your fish, I always recommend cutting and bleeding it out and getting it ready to clean as quick as possible, just to give you a better flavor and preserve the meat. Fish will actually start to deteriorate just minutes after dispatch. So a good knife, if you're going to keep them, get them bled out and cleaned as quick as possible. The beautiful part about ice fishing is you can pretty much put them anywhere and keep them fresh. So that's about it for knives. Another thing you can carry in your tackle box in the event you do lose your knife or forget your knife is just a small pair of fingernail clippers. Come in handy when you tie on a new lure or a new snap fitting. Have to quickly cut your line. boom, grab your nail clippers and snip, there you go. So, moving on, a bell. There's nothing worse than, stepping out of your ice hut or, going over to the coffee pot to get a cup of coffee or something, and boom, you got a fish and you don't know about it. A little bell, 99 cents at most stores, and you just clip it to the end of your rod, and that frees up your hands to go and do whatever you want to do. Have your coffee, walk around and stretch, make a sandwich, and if you get a hit, there you go. You're told right away. And I did try something different this year. I've seen a little bit about ice fishing line versus regular everyday old fishing line. So yesterday I was out doing some running around and I figured I would try it. And so I did pick up actual line that's designed for ice fishing. The only difference that I can see in it at this point is that it minimizes the water absorption and it helps prevent icing up of the line so you don't get ice buildup on your line while you're in the water. This is just your standard everyday old fishing line, and this is what I've been using now for quite a while. Spider wire, monofilament. I haven't had any issues with icing up on my line, but I usually don't fish outside when it's minus 30 or colder. I've got a tent that I set up and I've got a heater going and stuff like that. So just for the purpose of trying it though, I did buy the actual ice line. I did actually have my line cut at the bottom of my hole one time when I was trying to bring a fish in, so maybe that'll make the difference. So my next trip out, I will be trying the new ice line. So I think that about covers it for the ice fishing portion. If you just give me a few moments, I will get on to some of my summer gear that I do use, and I will show you some of that. And we're back. So we quickly switched seasons, and now we're into our spring, summer, fall line of fishing gear. And again, we'll start back with the fishing rods. So I mentioned earlier about a rod that I bought probably around 1991. This is an Omni Charger, and it's a graphite composite. This is a 7-foot medium action, just basic simple rod. I've changed the reel several times on it. Just finally found one that I really liked, but again, not an expensive reel. And I think I paid probably around $25 or $30 at, I believe it was Zellers at the time. So this is still, to this day, however many years later, my go-to rod. I have landed a multitude of fish on this rod, and it has never let me down. So I've got a lot of guys that say, oh, you gotta spend, go and get this for $500 or $600, and then you gotta spend another $600 or $700 on this reel and everything else. You could, but why? I catch just as many fish as they do, and sometimes, secret's ours, I catch more. So again, another more recent purchase. This is remember I said the off-brands, names that you don't necessarily know. This is a SRS rod. Never really seen them before. I believe I just needed a quick rod, so I grabbed it. I think this was a $19.99 Walmart special rod reel combo, and it's done me quite well. And again, this is a 6'6". It's a 2-piece medium action. And it does everything I need it to do. I do have a multitude of different rods. I don't have time to go through them all today. I do have rods from about 5 foot, which are light action, all the way up to a 10 foot or so medium action. And I pick the rod for the species of fish that I'm targeting. So my small little 5-foot light action rod, I usually enjoy going for smaller things like kokanee on those. These rods here are a little bit, you can fish for them, but they're a little heavy and you don't get quite the play out of them and stuff. So I do have many rods that I've spent many years collecting, and different rods for different types of fish, different types of fishing. I've got trolling rods, casting rods, I've got river rods, fly rods, so I've got pretty much everything covered. So this is where we get to the expensive part. This is the tackle box, and I had to upgrade a couple years ago because my regular tackle box just could not hold everything anymore. So I've got all sorts of weights and sinkers. I've got different things like gang trolls, willow leaves, flashers, scale, keep my knives, and again, all that important stuff up here. What I really like about this is you got the nice drawers. So what I do here is I can excuse me, I can separate my different types of lures. So for example, in this one I've got all my spoons and stuff like that. Different, well, I made a mess here. I got leaders in here. I got to clean my tackle box out. It's about that time. Do not let your wife clean your tackle box out. That would be the worst thing a guy can do. So different types of spoons, again, different sizes. I've got a few different little like swimmer type divers. I've got different shapes, colors, all sorts of colors, and so I got a little bit of everything. And those are different casting and trolling lures and stuff that I use. And then I get into some of my cranks and divers, and again, more trolling. I've got different types of different shapes. You got bills, you got different size bills, all sorts of different colors. These are more like plugs, and you know, each lure has a different action, has different color. They work great at different depths of water and for different species of fish. And we go down. These are some of my favorite. This is basically my Shuswap Lake drawer. Got the large Apex. I've got my large cut plug. Got medium Apex. I've got some T50 and T60 quick fish. These are fantastic lures, but you do not want to put anything else on your line when you're using one of those. They're very heavy trying to bring them in. These lures, if you're looking for a budget, these are going to be budget breakers. These things run probably about $20 to $25 a lure, so you don't want to lose those. These are great for we use them on the Shuswap Lake and Kamloops Lake usually for larger species of lake trout, larger rainbows, anything like that. And then of course everybody has to have the Mishmash hardware drawer. And again, that's why I really like this type of tackle box, because you can buy replacement cabinets or drawers. So you've got all your spare hooks, your snap swivels, all your barrel swivels. You can, you know, I keep all of my pieces that I need to rig up and keep my line going in the water. So I like to use a snap hook on the end of my line. Gives me for a quick and easy change of lure. I do usually carry at least 2 fishing rods with me. That way I can fish one, and if it's not working for a while, I can play around while it's still fishing and try different lures, and then I can set up a second lure while the first one's still fishing, and I can always have a rod ready to switch out and change up if I'm just not having any luck. So that's what we do there. And again, most of my rods up here usually have different types of line on them. I've got anything from about 8 to 10 pound is what I usually run on my standard lake rods. I do a lot more trolling than anything, so it handles the twist and the turbulence a little bit better. And I do run, depending on which species I'm fishing for and what rod I'm using, I run up to 30 pound. So there are a multitude of different brands out there. Some are better than others. Again, when you're looking at a fishing line, stick with something that you are familiar with, a brand name. Berkley's really good. Spiderwire is one of my favorites. Trilene, Berkley Trilene is another one that I like to use. Some of the cheaper brands where you pay about a third as much for the same quality of line, well, you're not going to get the same quality of line. It'll stretch and twist and it'll cause you all sorts of headaches after just a few hours of fishing. So I tend to spend a little bit more money on a more quality fishing line. There's always the debate between braided line and monofilament, and you do you, and whatever makes you comfortable and whatever works for you is great. I have always fished the monofilament, and I've tried braided at different times. I don't care for it, but again, getting into larger fish, maybe a braided line is something that you'd want to look for. So some of the other things I do have, and you will probably see on the channel, I've got a couple of different boats that I like to use, starting from my 12-foot. I've got a 9.9 horsepower gas motor that I use for that. I also switched that over to my 16-foot speedboat that I use as a kicker. You don't need to spend a lot of money on a boat. You don't necessarily need to even have a boat to get out and enjoy fishing. There's many areas around where you can go, and a lot of the forestry lakes nowadays, a lot more of them are putting fishing docks in. There's nice places you can fish from shore. It is always nice to be able to get out on a boat and kind of get away from everybody else. So you don't have to spend a small fortune on a fishing boat. You can find many decent fishing boats online for anywhere from about $1,500 up. You should be able to find something to suit your budget easily. You don't have to have a big monster 20-foot Trident trailer monstrosity of a boat to get out and do the fishing. Use the boat that suits the lakes and areas that you're going to fish. I have my 12-foot aluminum, which I use on the smaller lakes. I have, like I said, a 9.9 horse gas motor. I also have a Minn Kota electric motor that I can use for lakes that don't allow gas motors. I now also have a 16-foot aluminum boat with a 35 horse on it, and I've actually managed to rig up my Minn Kota electric motor to the steering mechanism so that I can use that electric motor as a trolling motor and maintain or control my speed a little bit better. And I also have another 16-foot fiberglass boat, which is a little larger with an 80 horse on it. And I came by these boats over time. I didn't rush out and buy a new boat every week because it was I hadn't decided what I wanted, and so I will be downsizing my boat collection sometime in the near future because I do not really need 3 boats. I do a lot of bigger lakes, a lot of smaller lakes, so keeping one of the bigger boats and the small boat is definitely feasible, but I don't need to have 3 boats, and neither do you. So having 3 boats isn't exactly fishing on a budget, is it? I also, in the winter time, I've got my side-by-side. When the ice is nice and thick like it is this time of year, it's really nice. If the snow is not too deep on the lake, you can get out, pack all your gear out, drive out onto the lake, set up, cut up your holes, and enjoy a day of fishing. You can fit pretty much everything you possibly need to take with you into the back of the side-by-side, and so that is ultimately my favorite mode to get out on the lake. I also have a snowmobile which I used, and I can use that to get it into the lakes where the snow's a little bit deeper, or you can't get into them with the side-by-side during the winter and stuff like that. So again, this is all stuff that I did not buy brand new. I budgeted, I planned, and I bought over time. So you don't have to have all of this stuff. It certainly makes your life a little bit easier. But the whole concept of fishing on a budget is to show you more or less that you can go out for a small amount of money and do the same thing that everybody else is doing or other people are doing for a large amount of money, and you can enjoy yourself just as much. You will still catch fish, and it's a great way to spend some time with your family and just get outdoors. Go do some sitting in the sun on the lake, whether it be on the boat or on the shore. There's nothing better. Even on the ice, if that's for you. So I think that'll about wrap up this episode. I've covered most of what I wanted to talk about today, and so we'll leave it at that. And remember, when you're out there, leave it at least as good as you found it, if not better. And we'll see you next time on Around the Next Bend.